In this video, I want to talk about shaky foundations. Now, what is a shaky foundation? The image you see on the background of this video is of a game. I forgot the name of the game, but it's a game where you use blocks to build a tower. And then one by one you remove the blocks and you hope that the tower keeps standing. Now, in this image, they put an illustration of a house above the tower and towers collapsing. Now, that's what a shaky foundation is like. A shaky foundation is any motivation that cannot last. Okay? Look, if you want to build a physical house out there, besides that you need the finances to finance it, you need a location. Often you need a permit from the local municipality to do it also. Before you even start building the house physically, you need to check if the soil is in harmony with what you want to build. If you want to build a skyscraper, then you can't do it in a place with a swamp. Okay, if the soil is a soil of a swamp, you can't build a skyscraper over there because that building will sink into the soil. If you want to build a mall, for example, you're not going to do it on a beach. You're going to build a pier of wood, and on that pier you can build the mall. So the soil needs to be in harmony with what you want to build. And on the soil, you put a foundation so the building keeps standing. Those that have studied architecture, they know all about this. I don't have to explain all of this to them. Just as you need to have the right soil for the right foundation when you want to build a building, the same way you have to examine the spiritual conditions before you initiate a project or you become part of a movement. Look, when a farmer wants to plant the seeds, he goes over the soil with his tools to make the soil messy. Because when the soil is messy, he puts the seeds in it, and when the rain falls, it becomes muddy. But when the soil is muddy with the seeds in it, the seeds will receive the water and the seeds will grow. And several months later, you have a harvest. So the farmer knows that things may become a bit messy in the process, but he knows that the mess is part of the process. If he wants a perfect flat soil, then he shouldn't be farming. He has to disturb the soil to make it a mess so that he can put a seed in it, and maybe he may even need to put dung of animals on it because that contributes to the fertility of the ground. So the farmer knows his hands will get dirty in the process, but the end result will be worth it. He'll be able to feed his family or feed the community, or he can use the harvest for export. So he knows the end result works out. Let me say everything works out for the good end result, but in the process it may get messy. Okay? So any farmer who doesn't want to get dirty hands, who doesn't want to be involved with messy soil, shouldn't be a farmer. Plain and simple. Look, if you want to start a family, then you know that when the children are born, the first few years you need to do everything. They are crying often, they're peeing and pooing everywhere. So you will have to go through that mess before they're like 3-4 years old and they can sit on a toilet and do those things properly. So if you're not willing to go through the mess at the beginning, then you shouldn't start a family. Because you shouldn't have children and once they are born as babies, now you're upset because they're acting like babies. Come on, you were a baby also. Look, what I'm aiming at in this video is that often believers get involved in movements, projects, and even ministries. Or maybe not something directly related to the faith, but they get involved with people in general, or they get involved in ideologies or whatever that they don't examine. What they should examine is the foundation of that movement or of that relationship. I'm going to give some examples for you to understand what I'm saying here. Think about the yellow vest movement. I believe it's week 42 now. I may be wrong, but anyway, for almost a year, it began in France when it went on the street wearing yellow vests, and it spread all over Europe. Now, it's almost a year further. What have they achieved? What did the movement change for the better? In the beginning, when the yellow vest movement began, I was a bit skeptical and even troubled by the movement. And I made a video about it. You can check it on my timeline of my YouTube account, in which I've warned you believers about this yellow vest movement, because I said that it will likely get out of hand and people will join it just to dump negative energy. And what happened? Past months, people died due to this yellow vestment movement. A lot of people were injured. There's a lot of damage to public spaces because of it. It has drained people. People are exhausted and tired of it. And what are the beneficial fruit of it? Tell me. Now, in this case of the yellow vest movement, this is what's going on. A lot of people in France were fed up with their leaders. And I can understand and empathize with that. They were fed up. However, the only reason they formed that movement was that they wanted something to stop. But they didn't consider what they're going to replace the old with. They were fed up with how things were going on in France. Okay? But what was their alternative? First, they said it was all about taxation. Later, it became obvious that it was a personal attack on the French president, Emmanuel Macron. Then, it became obvious that it isn't really about Macron. It's about those people, dumping their negative energy. So in their individual lives, they are upset with how things are going. They are both upset with how things are going naturally as well as individually. But what are their solutions? What are they working towards? So the movement contains mostly people that seek relief. Because sometimes you even ask one of those yellow vest protesters, what are your solutions? What are your alternatives? How do you plan to achieve those alternatives? What are the challenges that you will face with those alternatives? They don't know. They just want things to stop. They just want things to change. So, the yellow vest movement has a shaky foundation. The motivation those people have is a strong motivation because it's spread all over Europe and they keep on marching every weekend. It's a strong motivation, but that strong motivation doesn't automatically mean that it's a good foundation. Let me repeat that. A strong motivation is not automatically a good foundation. People are often motivated by relief. When they're upset, when they're frustrated, they want to flee. They want to flee and dump the frustration so they are at ease. That's the number one motivation amongst the human population. Amongst people, I mean. Relief. And this urge for relief can be so intense that people will likely side themselves with evil just to get the relief. Let me give an example. During the presidential elections of 2016, there were people that supported Trump, not because they were in favor of Trump, not because they were in favor of what he was saying. They admitted that the reason they choose Trump because they can't stand Hillary, they can't stand the Clintons. So because they had an aversion towards the Clintons, and they had an aversion to other things were happening in their individual lives, they now thought, we can't handle it when we face another frustration, because if Hillary becomes president, we have to put up with her for 4 years, and we are the ones upset because she's president, so we are the ones that will suffer, and we're the ones that will get sickness, so we're the ones that will pay the price for being upset with Hillary. So instead of admitting that it's all frustration that they dump on Hillary Clinton, so instead of admitting it's just them seeking relief, they now defend their fake reasons for why they're against Hillary, and to validate those fake reasons, they supported Trump. Well, the population didn't decide anyway who would become president. We know that by now. But all the harm that unfolded under Trump's presidency, let me tell you what's going to happen. All those people that supported Trump openly because they wanted to make plain they are against the Clintons, what's going to happen? Everyone around them will remember that they are the ones who supported Trump. They'll also remind them of it. So when communists around them want their relief, they will come after those that supported Trump. Because they would say, it's because of you that this country is in this mess. And if then you say, but I didn't really like Trump, then they will tell you, then why did you support him then? Because I couldn't stand Hillary. And then the communists will tell them, so you are willing to empower someone just to get back at someone else without considering how your support is going to affect other people? What type of narcissistic crap is that? So Donald Trump has a big political following, but it's a shaky foundation. It's mainly relief seeking. Now, that's the second example. Let me give a third example. This may be a bit more close to home. You have someone that calls you often, that befriends you. But then, after a while, you begin to wonder, why is this individual calling me so often? And then you find out that she, let's say you're a woman and she's a woman, so it's female friends, then you find out that she doesn't want to face anything in life. She treated people like rubbish in her past. She treated people like trash, and she doesn't want to face her own narcissistic attitude. And then you find out that she also lied to you. She told you she was single because she doesn't want a boyfriend for now, but she was involved with at least 2 boyfriends since you became friends with her. So she's lying to you just to get sympathy. What's going on here? That friendship is based on a shaky foundation, because the second part, it means that other woman who's a pathological liar, she just wants relief. So she's not transparent, and she doesn't want to build anything worthwhile. She just wants to get rid of whatever is bothering her, and she's using you for it. That's a shaky foundation. Look, aversion and relief are 2 main motivators that are quite strong. But just because you are against something doesn't mean your will is correct. Even if the thing you are against is evil in itself, if you are not for any long-term solutions, then you are only enabling the evil. Fighting evil will enable evil. When you enforce the good, you overrule evil. Let me repeat that. Fighting evil will enable evil, because you are focused on evil. And before you know it, you begin to imitate the evil you're fighting against, without you being aware of it. But when you enforce the good, you overrule evil, and you uproot evil from its roots. So just because something is wrong and you're against it, doesn't mean that you are right. Okay? There are many ministries, churches, businesses. There are many things out there built on shaky foundations. Why am I warning you about shaky foundations? Because this is how it goes. When a population, so this is something that happens in general, but it does affect people. When a population in general doesn't want to face its own dysfunction, what happens then is that evil spirits will report this onto the beast, and the beast will appoint a demonic principality to investigate the matter. And once the demonic principality reports back onto the beast will then appoint a demonic handler, that's just a chief demonic spirit, that will possess an individual of that same community, and that evil spirit will then use that individual to start a movement. And this movement will attract most people of that community. Sometimes it will capture the entire community with the exception of a few individuals. This demonic handler, which is a demonic spirit, is using its host to keep the masses away from Christ. And the reason why that demonic handler, which is backed up by a demonic principality, so there may be around 30 legions of evil spirits, which is around 300,000 evil spirits involved in the deception. And those legions of evil spirits will manipulate circumstances to make that host prosperous. So you have people out there who have a big following, or they have influence, but the influence comes from the demonic. They didn't look for that influence. They never asked for that influence. It wasn't even on their mind to receive that influence or to become so influential, but it was demonic spirits that selected them. The host itself, if it's a man, because often it's a man, that man will think that it's his own talent or hard work that brought him that influence. Or he may believe that he has been favored by his ancestors or whatever. And sometimes the evil spirits may even convince the individual that it's the Holy Spirit that has anointed him and that it's God that brought him that influence. No matter what type of cover evil spirits use, that host is used to deceive the masses. The reason why the masses are so easily deceived by this host, well, actually it's the evil spirit within the host that's doing it, but people see the host. The reason why the deception is so successful is because in their hearts, in their minds, the people already decided that they don't want any solutions. Of course, nobody's going to openly say that they don't want any solutions, because then it becomes so obvious, too awkward. So nobody will do that. Well, maybe someone who's out of their mind may say openly they don't want any solutions, but in general, people are proud, and when they are fleeing, when they are in relief seeking, they will always claim to have the reasons, even if they can't explain the reasons, or even if the reasons are proven to be wrong. So when people are holding on to relief seeking as a collective, evil spirits are activated, and they will take advantage of it by raising up someone that will lead them to what they want, which is relief. But that's all it will do. It will lead the people to the relief they're longing for. And because they're strongly motivated by aversion and relief, they will comply. They'll be very motivated to work. And the people that are part of this movement, or the people in that community, will then have this strong bonds together because they're all against something, and now you have a leader that validates their hatred. Because it's hatred, plain and simple. And here's the catch. Eventually, the black magic blinds people's perception so much that they cannot see that they're stuck in a cycle. Think about the Yellow Vest movement. People go there every weekend to reveal their hatred and their anger about the situation. But they just don't realize they're stuck in doing this. They're stuck in a cycle. In a similar way, you may have people that are stuck in a domestic violence situation. There may be a wife that's being beaten by her husband. And she often receives sympathy from other people, but she never really leaves the situation. Or maybe if she leaves the husband, she ends up in another domestic violence situation. She's stuck in a cycle. Where did this begin? when she was a teenager, she couldn't stand someone and she got validation from someone else. But this validation blinded her from seeing her own narcissistic attitude. And it's this narcissistic attitude that led her into negative relationships. So she has been stuck in a cycle for decades, but she just can't see it. I use the yellow vest movement as an example. Let me use Brexit for an example. Okay? You had this option in advisory referendum, so it's not a binding referendum, where the British people could vote whether they want to stay or leave the European Union. Then you had two camps, the leavers and the remainers. So that's duality right over there. Those who wanted to leave had to prove their case. Why would Britain be better off without the EU? There were things said like, they, as EU, needs us more than we need them. It would be the easiest trade in human history when we want to leave the EU. Those people were promised many great things, but there was one big trap. None of those Brexiteers explained how it will actually unfold and what the challenges would be. So they only were dropping vain promises. But because many British people were fed up and upset, and because in Britain there was this tradition that you just blame the European Union instead of facing your own leaders or instead of facing things in your own community, this relief seeking against the EU, or better, its aversion towards the EU, was triggered, and a lot of people voted to leave. But we are now 3 years further. They still didn't leave the EU, and the EU made a deadline that they had to be gone by the 31st of October, that's on Halloween, or they need to remain in the EU. It's one of the two. And past 3 years, it became obvious that none of the promises of the Brexiteers were based in reality. And some of those Brexiteers that made those weird promises, when they were confronted on camera, for what they said earlier on camera, they denied it. So instead of the British people realize that they've been scammed, and they aren't well informed enough to make such a big decision, they now became proud. Why? Because it was rooted in aversion and relief seeking. So now you have a part of the British population that has become hardened in their denial. And now, even when it's proven and obvious that leaving the EU will not be beneficial for the British people in the long run, people still want it. And this idea of a no-deal Brexit, that you just walk away from the EU, stonewall the EU, stonewall the rest of the world, just to do their own thing. If they would do that, people would die of poverty, crime would increase, price of food would increase also, the fishing industry would collapse. So all those bad effects are already in work, and they haven't even left the EU. Instead of people waking up, realizing it was a very dumb move of us to even allow this vote, instead of looking for what's actually best for the British people in the long run, their mentality is, we made a choice, and now everyone has to put up with our choice. And here's the thing. Now you have a government in the UK that's pro-Brexit, but look at this. They still don't want to take responsibility for what they want. So they get what they want. It's going to happen, but they don't want to deal with the consequences of what they want. So now they want to blame the consequences on the EU too. You see how far this goes? So this whole Brexit movement is based on a shaky foundation. But those that examined this thing from the start would have seen it. But now that movement is holding Britain hostage to what they want, but they don't want to deal with consequences. The EU at the other side is very plain. We're not going to renegotiate the withdrawal agreement because we need to protect the Irish border. We need to protect Ireland. Ireland remains part of the EU, so we as a union have to stand behind our members. You don't want to be a member anymore, we're going to force you to stay, but we are going to defend the interests of our other members. For some reason, many of the Brexiteers even expect the EU to violate their obligations to Ireland just to please them. So it's quite narcissistic. That's why I'm telling you, check the foundation. Don't just get involved in something because it sounds good. Or don't just get involved with people because they sound good, they sound smooth. Look at the foundation. And the way you examine the foundation, when you look at the context and the timing. Check the context and the timing, folks. Remember what I said in the beginning of this video. If you don't want to get dirty clothes, you don't want to get dirty hands, you don't want to put up with a messed up soil, with a soil that's messy, then don't become a farmer, because all of that is necessary for the good outcome. And here's how you recognize a movement or a situation with a shaky foundation. It all starts off so good. Now, blessings can all start off good. I'm not saying that can't happen, but when demons come with their distractions, they will make sure it looks good all the time, because they know that this is what triggers a lot of people. Most people don't examine anything. They especially look at the context and especially don't check the timing. They don't want to be bothered, just want to be left alone. And it's this relief seeking that evil spirits trigger in people. And that's why the deceptions by evil spirits often work so easily. If something starts off way too good, then you know it's likely too good to be true. I'm telling you, look at the context. Look at the timing. Examine the foundation. And remember, a strong motivation is not automatically a strong foundation. Well, that's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.